Success Mantra is a program which features people, successful individuals from various walks of life. They are less known heroes who believe in their dreams and have conviction to live their full potential. Idols, icons, innovators who care to live every moment on their own terms.
So, good morning, Jyoti. Welcome to Success Mantra program series. And it's a great honor to have you on this show because you're one such person I know who has always been very inspiring to not only your coaches but also to people who know you. So, it would be great if you could give a quick introduction about yourself, how it's kind of impacted your life.
By way of background, born and brought up in Lucknow, then went to IIT Delhi, and I am Cal. I worked with Asian Paints initially in production at the factory in Ankleshwar, then at their corporate office in Bombay. Then I moved to Greenlays Bank, ANZ Greenlays. I stayed with them through the 90s. I grew to the head of HR role in 96. I was the youngest guy on the board of Greenlays at that time. And on a regional role in 98 across Middle East and South Asia. I left them in 2000 beginning with the rush of the dot-com to join some IIT friends of mine who had just made money selling the company Junglee to Amazon, and they were doing the next venture. So I moved from Bombay at 1/3 salary and 100,000 stock options to Bangalore. We grew as I was employee number one and director of the Indian company in the Overseas Development Center for a Silicon Valley based startup called Purple Yogi. For Purple Yogi, I set up the Software Technology Park STP funded development center. We grew as the NASDAQ grew to 83 employees, came down as the NASDAQ came down and was laid off without a job. Roller coaster ride, no regrets, learned a lot, notably what the power of time to market is, and also how technology can enable and drive and differentiate businesses. Then I was jobless for 4 months. I joined Anderson Consulting when Enron was in the news. So the day Enron was on the news, and then Anderson went down, and again Anderson got acquired by EY. For Anderson stroke EY, that's where I started my career in consulting, so to speak. I left them to make my first attempt at starting my own company. There were a couple of deaths in the family, and I'm elder son, so I had responsibilities. I moved to Delhi at that stage and joined Times of India Group. I was a director on the board of Times of India. For Times, I ran a company called Penetrate Advisory Services, and we would offer services to companies in Indian family businesses where Times had, got some kind of partnership arrangements on the equity side. I did that for 4 years, after which I got very excited by the space of helping businesses who are below the radar, who are not necessarily on front page of Economic Times, but there's a lot of the India shining thing was beginning to appear there. So in 2007, I left Times to start my own company, which is called White Spaces. We've just entered, we're a teenager now, 13 years on. And we offer organization capacity and leadership development services. Work with three kinds of companies mainly. First is family businesses between 1,000 to 10,000 crore turnover, which is not small and not huge. That's 50% of our business. Another 30% of our business will be private equity funded, technology enabled, early stage companies. Rarely startups, but early stage in VC parlance, Series A, B onwards, not before that. And the third is in the Middle East, where I work with governments. I'm an advisor to a couple of government authorities. Authorities are like, public sector departments and ministries here. So I'm on a couple of board, and I offer, I'm on the board of a couple of these entities as well as an advisor to a few. So that in brief is the journey. And of late, our focus is on helping companies to, our byline is aligning attention with intention, so helping companies to clarify their intention if it's not clarified and sharpen it, and then see how energy of individuals, companies, and communities goes in the direction of their intention. So that's what our journey ahead may look like.
Wow. So that's been a lot of work that you have done in the industry for, almost what, 3 decades now. So you must
More
be
than that
really
now.
more than that.
Yeah.
And you must be really excited with the kind of work that you're doing. And of course, a lot of success that's come your way. So we wanted to understand your perspective in terms of what is success to you? How does success come to you, or how would you define success?
Uh, Success is, I think, bridging the gap between your expectations and achievements. If you can bridge that, or if your achievements can exceed your expectations. So first, it's about setting expectations and clarifying expectations, and then seeing whether you achieved again. Now, success, people measure differently. People measure by what others say on net worth. I try to measure it what I feel, and I want to be better today than I was yesterday. Is a continual game that I try to play with myself, and whatever I do, I want to do in a manner that is kind of best in class. Now. I've changed 5 jobs, altogether, and now I'm running my own company. But in 34 years, I think now 34, going 35 years of working, I've never had Monday morning blues. Oh, I have to go to, or Friday evening. Yeah. The day I've felt disenchanted or disengaged, I have walked, often without a job or not knowing what to do next. So therefore, in that sense, success on my terms rather than what the world thinks, type of a thing. So that's one. And really achieving what you set out to do, and being good at that. And it can be anything. It can be helping others. It does not have to be monetary, or awards and recognition outside. It's more a journey of progressive fulfillment of your own standards, which you can keep raising, and that's how I see it, success.
Right. Jyoti, help us understand. You have had a very conventional, like what should I say, education in terms of IIT, IIM, being the best, being the cream in the society, and having it all, right? So for you, it's very easy. It's like that's how people would perceive it, that it's served on a platter because you've been so meritorious. So walking out of a job and walking into the next one, it's not a big deal. So in context to that, how has this journey been in terms of changing your tracks, whether it be corporate world, whether it be changing industries? How did you go about walking from one success to the other?
Yeah. So success is staying, staying on course despite failures till you overcome the obstacle or the hurdle or the failure and get some success. And then it's a series of failures with occasional, victory, if I may call it, on success. Life is a marathon, and I believe that you can never declare victory. You never declare victory too early, right? It's one battle and then the next, and then you'll be on the peak, and then you'll be in the valley, and that represents life. So. In terms of your comment on because I have it on a platter, yeah, God has been kind, and I'm privileged to have, I think, almost the best education in this line that you can get in the country, if not globally. But having said that, a lot of my friends don't have the same appetite for risk or stomach for failure to just walk away from. I think between security and curiosity or adventure or experiment, people tend to lean in one direction. I lean, certainly, if one thing defines me, it is, my voracious, insatiable hunger for learning. When I was jobless and I didn't have a job, I had, two EMIs and a loan, and a rent, and 2 kids to bring up. I went and did courses without having a job, because I had 3 months free, like the first time I got laid off. So, and over the last 3 years, I have said that I will invest in my own learning. Uh, I had said 20 days a year. Then I broke it down to 5 days, which is equal to 1 week a quarter. And I would go to the best in the world. Now you can argue that I've been privileged and I can go. So I would go to MIT and Columbia and Stanford and all of that, and sit at the feet of gurus and learn. That helped me because now I'm a advanced facilitator at the Executive Education Center at MIT's Sloan School of Business, so Sloan School of Organization Learning, attached to the Sloan School of Business, and that's one part. The other part is, you must have heard that, you are the middle, of the 5 people you hang out with, or 4 people you hang out with, or you choose to hang out with outside of work. Two of them are better than you, 2 of them are worse than you, and you're somewhere in the middle. That's true in my case also. So I keep trying to raise the quality of the people, meet. While COVID has, affected that, but suddenly I realized now I'm often in a breakout room with Nobel. I mean, last week I was in a thing with the Nobel laureate in economics, who came into the thing. I mean, would that ever have been possible in the physical world for me, So, I certainly see the glass as half full. I mean, and I always, whenever people see a problem, I see an opportunity, I don't know if any training can help there, or it's my DNA or what. I genuinely see it like that. I am very able to walk away from, like, what's done is done, and now what next? I'm even in a car crash. I've been in a couple of accidents. First make sure people are safe, and then what next? So that's been helpful. Focusing on possibilities rather than problems, and even problems have possibilities. Problems are often, your first thing with the problem is it controllable or it's not controllable? If it's not controllable, at best you can monitor it, carefully. And if it's controllable, then take your baby steps, even if you fail, and then get up. So another one mantra is fail fast, learn faster, repeat.
Sure. Excellent. All right. So, like you just mentioned, when you got laid off from a job and then you walked into another one, and in between you were not doing something. However, in society and even in the industry, it's kind of a, total taboo that, oh, what will happen? The hell has kind of dropped on me and things like that. So for people like that, who, especially in the pandemic times, they are facing a lot of challenges. They are in a company which has its own concerns, and of course they are dealing with tough times. So what do you think is going to help them, not only in context to a mantra, but what is this behavior or value system that you feel you have been able to inculcate in your life, which has really helped you traverse all these challenges with a smile?
Yeah. If you do what everybody else does, or more so based on what everybody else thinks, you'll end up where everybody else did, which is the definition of mediocre or average. Sure. To get ahead, success in your chosen direction, not what others say, whatever you choose to do, you have to do something differently. I'll give some examples. One is, good people live by their to-do list. I see many people with to-do lists who go around. Great people live by their calendar. Okay. If you calendarize it, it'll get done. If you don't calendarize it, the important always gets crowded out by the urgent. So that's one big difference. I kind of live and die by my calendar. I even have a time for like 4 hours of doing nothing, right? Or 2 hours of, or having fun or meditating or whatever it could be. But that's one. One thing the COVID has certainly taught me, and I'm sure it's taught many others, is the importance and crucial and the critical role that your routine plays in your life. In Sanskrit or in Hindi, there's a phrase called dincharya, which is what is built into your daily routine. So you have to build in time for learning, time for reflection, time for focus on important rather than urgent. We tend to, a lot of us get swamped in activity, and we confuse activity with achievement and outcome. That's a big myth, and I see a lot of people doing that. You have to be more outcome or achievement, oriented. Achievement in your definition, not what the world thinks. Did I do what I had set out to do? Uh, uh, Otherwise, when you don't have a calendar and you run by to-do lists, for example, the urgent or the distractions which everything else has, so like social media, etc., will always crowd out the important, if not always, often. And that makes you less than great. That itself. If you focus on what is important to you, uh, pace is not so important. Direction is far more important. In the marathon, the tortoise always wins. In a 100-meter race, yeah, sure. Uh, Another thing I live by is, while you focus on your marathon, don't get distracted by somebody else's sprint. We tend to get, oh, he's doing that, oh, he's gone ahead, kind of a thing. Stay with your marathon and take a lime juice break if you need to, but stay with your marathon. And 3-4 counterintuitive rules. One is less is more. Do few things, do them well. Like, I'm not on social media, I don't read newspapers, I don't watch television, and yet I stay on top of what I need to know. A lot of news, ask yourself the question, so what? And if it doesn't pass the so what test, don't spend time. It's just the biggest, energy, news, WhatsApp, etc. All of that, just, sumps which drain, like black holes, and they suck time, without adding proportion value. Yeah, I understand the communication role of that and all of that. There are other means too. Does it hurt to have left, WhatsApp and Facebook? Sure. But you have to prioritize ruthlessly till it hurts. And that's the first part. The second part is figure out whether it's controllable problem or not controllable problem. Take baby steps. Get a quick, feedback. Learn lessons, course correct, and keep repeating that. Success is not a great decision or a great mind or a great strategy. Success is a series of course corrective steps based on authentic early warning signals. Do you have a mechanism of getting feedback or signals? Are they authentic, which means are reliable to measure what you want to measure? And then based on that, are you taking course corrective action? So you have to keep brutally course correcting. I've lost 40 kilos weight. I don't know if you knew me then, so I used to be 107. Just that. Stay the course. Stay the course. And build. So now my dincharya is different. And, everything, we think a diet will help, and maybe it will, but it doesn't. You have to look at your own lifestyle. So I can't overemphasize dincharya or the importance of a routine, which bakes into it what is important to you. The other thing I say is people get confused by what I'm good at versus what I enjoy. What happens when they're not the same? I know great CFOs, but they are, unhappy because they don't enjoy it. And when I hold a leadership workshop of MDs and directors and all, and I ask them, what would you like to do? Almost nobody's mojo or dream is in the corporate world. Somebody wants to write a school, somebody wants to do charity, somebody wants to go do farming, somebody wants to do something else. Then why the hell don't you? What prevents you? And if we talk, then we're not serious. We are not fooling the world, we're fooling ourselves.
True. Very well said that, success is like a marathon and you can take your lime juice break. So what has been, like your greatest achievement? Because as we see that you have had many milestones and it's given you a lot of joy, etc. What has been the single most achievement in your career or life, which gives you a lot of joy when you look back?
It may sound cliched, but helping others has been my greatest. I don't know if it's achievement, it's still work in progress, but it's certainly my greatest focus. And what gives me deep joy is when either companies or couples or individuals tell me that I made a difference to their lives. If I've had to help turn around companies, which would have meant 10,000 employees will get laid off, right? So you can argue I didn't save 10,000 jobs, but I helped in that direction. Or a company is a 100 crore company and becomes a 1,000 crore company today, and instead of 500 employees, now 5,000 employees. So I contributed in that direction. So employment generation, productivity. So in that sense, helping others, others could be any paradigm. individuals, couples, companies, communities, and in the case of Dubai, the country also. Yeah, so that's that. I don't know if it's my success, but it's certainly what gives me deep joy and satisfaction in a satisfaction. And yeah, success is work in progress.
Brilliant. Okay. Who has been your role model in this journey of achieving from one success to the other?
Role models have evolved over time. I mean, there's not been one singular role model. My mother, more than my father, but also my father, have helped shaped my values quite deeply, and also what is what is important and what is non-negotiable. That has been a big help to me. Apart from that, uh, initially, I mean, like today, like I consider Peter Senge as a role model for myself. I want to, like, in the whole area of systems thinking. There's been somebody called Ichak Adizes, based in California. Quite a few. I mean, who was. Raghuram Rajan, my school and IIT class, schoolmate and IIT classmate. Uh, there's lots to learn. I don't know if I have one unique model. I've picked up, elements from different, one thing. Okay, this is the one thing great about this person. Yeah. So.
Sure, sure. So, in this journey, how would you say that you have dealt with the failures when it's come your way?
Bounce back very quickly. I mean, yeah, okay. Could I help? I think the first thing is it's happened. Like it's over. And then what next? I first focus on what next. What can I do next in terms of steps? Step away from it. And then as I begin the steps on that, and as I sow the seeds of what's next, and I'm like, watering that plant of my next, watering that for my next, whatever fruit, for it to bear fruit, I reflect on what went wrong. I don't reflect immediately on what went wrong. I immediately plunge myself into action for baby steps. Then as I've started the baby steps on the way, and I'm getting that on track, I will reflect on what went wrong. Did I see it coming? Did I miss something? Was something I could have controlled? Is there a lesson I've learned? And if I've learned lessons, I try and remind myself of that and follow that the next time around. Yeah, so mainly that.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets that you could have done this, or something which is missed out in the time that you have spent in your life or even in the industry?
I have two regrets. One I realized at age 50, which is I wish after IIT and after IIT certainly, or RIM, I don't know. I wish I'd gone to a top-notch global university, where and I can think of many American ones. I wish I'd gone there. I didn't realize it then. I realized it when I was 50. So I wish I'd gone there, just because it widens the horizon, and the canvas that you now have in front of you is so much. I I've been to more than 100 countries, so I've kind of made up for that lost time. But I wish I had done that in my 20s, not in my 40s and 50s, which I ended up later doing. That's one, and therefore that's one regret. The other is, while I was pursuing my career, I went through a messy divorce, and I was not able to be a father to my two children, and I regret that opportunity.
So you just mentioned that in your 20s, if you had been to a global school and so on and so forth. So how important is the role of the degrees from international universities, Ivy Leagues, or even the best in India, let's say IIM, IIT? Would you say that's the hallmark of a genius or successful person, without which one cannot really make a statement of their work?
The answer is no. It's not it's not the magic formula. I know people who've succeeded who are not from these places, and I've seen enough people from these places who have not succeeded. So there is no clear correlation. Having said that, what does, let's say, an IIT, IIM, Stanford, Harvard, whatever you want to take, INSEAD, anything you want to take, what do they give you? They give you what I call sangat, the quality of the people you meet, the quality of the networks and relationships you have opportunity to build. They give you certainly bigger opportunity to begin with. So I think a good education opens big doors early for you. It makes it easier to open the doors, but what you make after the door opens, a lot depends on you. And after the first 7-10 years of your career, it broadly doesn't. People argue that it matters, but I know enough people who've done well in those 7-10 years without a pedigree, and that's not mattered to them. Quality education helps open doors, the network. What do I, in fact, somebody asked me this question. I'd gone to give a valedictory talk at IIT Delhi, my alumni mater. And somebody asked me this question, does IIT IIM matter? And I said no. And somebody said that, because you're from IIT IIM, you can say that. Others can't say that. And that's a fair allegation, and I take that. So he said, do you mean IIT is giving you nothing? I said, no, I didn't say that. So IIT gave me 5 things, right? What I call. IIT taught me the power of sadhana, the 5 S's, sadhana, the discipline, practice, sadhana. Okay, IIT gave me Sangat, the company I had then and the company I've nurtured over that. Today I can pick up the phone and call many people who are just because of, who I hung out and, had fun and, played wicked games with in college, right? So that's Sangat, sadhana. Okay, it gives you a swamvar, For the first time, and the only time in life, there are companies moving for you, it will never happen again in your life. So that, don't underestimate the value of that, right?
Sure.
Okay. Sanyam, which is, 5 years, every day you have to study, there's study, there's lab, I see movie, Delhi University and other places, Bollywood movies, I see universities, I've never been to that kind of a thing. For us, college was hard work. 8 to 12 classes, 1 to 5, practicals and heat lab, etc. type of a thing. So it was hard work, and that built some discipline and analytical thinking and all. So certainly, it gave me, so what are the Sangat, Sadhana, Sanyam, Swamvar, and is there a fifth? Sangat, I would say, is very, very important. In fact, often parents ask me, give some advice to my child, and my child may do drugs, my child may do this. I just focus on the Sangat that they keep. Who do they hang out with? Just see if they can talk about it. So can't undermine the thing of Sangat and Sadhana.
Wow, beautifully said. Jyoti, as we get on the top of the time, and we are really thankful for all the sharing that you have done with us. What is this message that you would like to give our audience in terms of making life really beautiful, successful, spiritual? What is this single message that you want to leave us with?
I don't know if it's single, but I'll tell you, focus on possibilities, not problems. Compete with yourself, not others, to be better today than you were yesterday. Move away from toxic, negative, disabling people and behaviors towards positive, ennobling people and behaviors. Be fully alive here and now.
Wow, that was awesome. So, Jyoti.
One last one. Conquer fear in all your decisions and relationships.
Could you repeat that, please?
Conquer fear in all your decisions and relationships.
Beautiful. Excellent. So, Jyoti, that was really enlightening. And of course, like you said, that, in life, success is basically how you define it to be and how you want to design it for yourself. So definitely our audience would gain a lot of insights through this conversation. And if they want to reach out to you, I have your coordinates. Thank you so much for making time for this. Thanks.
Thank you, Sonali. I'm honored, and thank you for the privilege.